All right, we're ready for lesson 5. And how are you doing on this? You may have some days where you have to skip a day and you can't practice every day, and that's fine. We need to do it most days, though. So lesson 5 doesn't necessarily mean day 5, okay? Maybe day 7, maybe day 14 for you. However long it takes you to get down whatever the new piece is, and now it's lesson 5, it may take you 2, 3, 4 days, then we'll move it over to the repertoire section of your sheet whenever that happens. Okay, so no pressure there. Alright, we're doing something called triple meter. Normally, let me go ahead and zoom this in. Alright, I hope it looks, it does look big enough on the video, but it looks really huge here in person. You can really see all those notes very well. Alright, we're looking at the time signature here. And pull up my highlighter. And we take a look at the time signature. And it says 3-4. Now it's always said 4-4 thus far. The top number has always been a 4. The top number of the time signature always tells us how many counts are in one measure. All right, so we have 4 counts in a measure. Get that off of there. All right. We have 4 counts in one measure. And the bottom number tells us what kind of note gets 1 count. Now you may think, well, a quarter note gets 1 count. Yeah, almost all the time it does. A quarter note gets 1. Eventually it will not. Sometimes a quarter note will get a different note value, and then it changes how all the other note values are measured. But for our purposes now, the bottom number is going to be 4. So don't worry about the bottom number right now. Just worry about that top one. Now we were counting to 4, right? But now we're going to count to 3 because the top number is a 3. There's only going to be 3 counts in a measure. That's typically called waltz time. 1, 2, 3 if you hear. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That's waltz time. Waltz time is 3-4. And we're counting to 3 instead of 4. So that's what you need to be aware of. One measure now will have 3 counts. Each measure will have 3 counts. Okay, so we're counting to 3 now. So we won't have that extra beat. So, that's called the time signature. Remember what this is called? Treble clef, bass clef, brace. This is the 5 lines and 4 spaces are the staff. Right? We have a treble staff and a bass staff. Both staves together make the grand staff. All right, this is a quarter note. The black notes are quarter notes. We don't have one visible here, but if we had a white note, it would be a half note with a stem. If we just had a goose egg note without a stem, it would be a whole note. 4 counts for a whole note, 2 counts for a half, 1 count for a quarter. This should be reviewed. You should remember this. It should not be something new. All right, so let's dive in. We have C position still. We're going to get really used to this C position. And then we're going to move positions and change later on. But let's get really used to this C position. Before we start this, have you played through your repertoire? You should have 4 pieces that you play through before we do this one, before this practice session each time. Remember, there's 3 sections. The repertoire section, and then you will work on the new piece. That's what we're doing right now, is the new piece. And then the third part will be you and your flashcards, or your random note sight reading. Alright, so here we go with the new piece. What's the first note? Should be just a gimme by now. That's a C, of course, because it's got one ledger line through it. And then we go to what? D. Then we go to what after that? What's on the bottom line of the treble clef? E. We're doing repetition on this. You'll hear me go through these same notes over and over and over and over again, because that's how we memorize and remember what the notes are. It's by repetition. I'm going to continue to ask you what note touches the bottom right underneath the staff in the treble. It's a D note, right? D. What note's on the first line? We just had it in the first measure. E. What note's in the first space right here of the right hand? F. All right, and we continue with an E on the bottom line, and then an F, and then a G. Okay, if you need to write these in lightly in pencil, feel free to do so. Just make sure you write right next to the note. Don't write way off in space somewhere, and then you're not even looking at the note. Write right next to it so that you see it. So there are notes there for right hand. All right, so we have C, D, E, D, E, F, E, F, G, F, E, D. Now we want to do that without having to look at your hand. Look at your hand first to get it in position, and then try to play without looking at your hand. Look up here. Look at the music. Okay? Don't want to get in the habit of memorization and looking down. That's bad for our sight reading skills. Now we go to left hand. All right, the first note we have is in the second space of the bass staff. What is that? Of course, that's a C. Okay, it's a C note on the fifth finger, the pinky of the left hand in C position. C. We go up to the note on the middle line, which is what? D. Then we go up again to E there in the third space. So C, D, E. Okay, play it steadily. Don't get in the habit too of playing the note as quickly as you can. Give it at least a full count before you go to the next one. Okay? Even if you can go faster, don't do that. Give it its full quarter note value. Okay? Alright, let's go to the second line now. Second system. A more correct way to say it. Continuing with left hand. We start with a note on the third line. What is that? D. A note on the middle line would be a D. Left hand, we go up to an E. Alright, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be an F. Alright, and then we go back down to a note on the third space. That's going to be an E for us. Back up to F. And then up some more to the top space, which is what? That's going to be a G. Then down to a D note on the middle line. How many counts for a dotted half note? Not 2. 1, 2, 3. Now, we cannot have a whole note in this song. You know why? Because a whole note would get 4 counts, and we only get 3 per measure, so a whole note would not fit one of these measures, so we won't have a whole note anywhere. Continuing on, now we have hands together, okay? A lot of books spend a lot of time before they start putting your hands together. I like to start doing that pretty soon. Now, we have octaves again. So, remember that it means the same letters on both hands. If you have trouble playing your hands together, you can, of course, play your right hand first, and then do your left, and then put them together. Nothing wrong with that at all. Alright, C, D, we move up to E. So that sounds like this. C, D, E. Now what do we start on? Now we start on D. And then we'll go to E here. And we end up on an F. Okay? So D, E, F. And we start on an E, then we go up to F. And then up a little more to G. So E, or E, F, G. Okay? Octaves. And by the way, octave, of course, the prefix OCT, oct, stands for 8. That's why we call it an octave, because they're 8 notes apart. If I take 2 C's and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So all letters that are octaves are 8 notes apart. Okay. Now we will move on to the last line. All right, we have more octaves still. And we have F's here. Okay. Look at that left hand. It's on the 4th line. What is that? An F. Don't just look at the right hand and say, oh, it's an octave, so I'm just going to play an F. Make sure you take a look at that left hand. Know that it's on the fourth line. F, and we go down to E, and then down some more to D, down some more to C, back up to D, up to E. I'll start right here. F, and then E, and then D, then C's, then D's, and then E's, and then a little bit more to go. Now I'll ask you a question. How many measures are left? So you should be able to count. 1, 2, 3. 3 measures are left. How many counts in this measure? Of course, there's 3. It's always going to add up to 3 when I'm in 3/4 time signature, okay? So, but we have an F, and an E, and then D notes, all right? So F, E, D. All right, now when I'm looking at the music, but I can see the keyboard peripherally. Even though I'm not looking right at it, I can still see it. See what it looks like. So that's what you want to do. You don't want to stare directly at the keyboard the whole time. All right. Then we end on C's. 1, 2, 3. 3 counts, right? Now I'm going to show you something new here. Talked about. It's called a tie. See this curved line right here, connecting the 2 C's, and you also have it here. It's called a tie. And a tie connects the values of 2 notes, but you don't play the note 2 times. You just play it the first time. So you go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So the note lasts a total of 6 counts because it's 3 plus 3, but I only play it this very first time. I just keep holding it down. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like that. And the left hand will do it as well. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, that's called a tie. Now, sometimes you'll see some curved lines that are not ties. For it to be a tie, it has to be to the very next note and to be the same note. Okay, if this note were a D, then it would not be a tie. You wouldn't be able to continue holding it because it would be a different note. All right, it has to be the same note, and it has to be the very next note. All right, in that voice. Okay, so, and of course, what is this called at the end? The double bar. All right, or the fine at the end. So now let's play through the whole thing. This one is not a well-known tune or anything. It's just something that I put together to help us at this point. Okay, so lesson 5, C position triple meter. All right, listen to the 3 count. I'm counting to 3. 1, ready, go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. E, F, G, F, E. D. Left hand, C, D, E, D, E, F, E, F, G. 1, 2, 3. C. Octaves here. C, D, E, D, E, F, F, G, F, E, C, D, E, F, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. See how I did the tie at the end? Okay? So, that's your new piece. One thing left to do is your flashcards. So get those out. Get the left hand ones out. There should be 5 of them. Set them up. Play them in the order that you set them up and say them out loud. If you don't know one, you look on the back and see the little pencil mark that you put and see what letter it is. And then try it again. Reshuffle them, do it again. Reshuffle them, do it again. Then do the right hand. All right? And you might, at the end of this lesson, try and start mixing them together a little bit. Where you have maybe the 5 right hand flashcards, but throw 1 left hand one in there just for kicks, and see if you can nail that left hand one too in the middle of all those right hand notes. Okay? So that is lesson 5.